Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. So with some inevitability, I'm going to present my top 12 favourite second songs from albums. So this is a follow-on from the last video I did, which was my top 12 opening tracks. So I'm moving now to the second song from the appropriate album. So let's see what we've got.
Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. You gotta have something.
We're going to start with a song which has long been a favourite of mine. This is Billy Preston and his album The Kids and Me, and there is an incredibly infectious song, the second song on side one. Absolutely love it. It's called Nothing from Nothing, which has got a great pop gospel kind of vibe, wonderful arrangement, great vocal performance from Billy. It's one of those songs I can listen to it on repeat again and again. Great song. So there we have number 12.
He loves your sexy body. He loves your dirty mind.
I don't think anybody would argue that this is a great song as such, but this is one that used to get stuck on my car stereo back in the day when I used to have this album on cassette in the car. The Travelling Wilburys, and it's the second song from the record. I don't need to keep saying that, do I? Because that's what this video is all about. But the second track on the album is Dirty World, which is, I think it's meant to be just a song about a car, essentially. But it's the one where all the Wilburys line up and take it in turns to sing a line each. It's so infectious, so joyful. I love the way that you can hear each of their personalities coming through, and it's just a song that I've always really loved. And this next one is a total guilty pleasure. Not an artist that I feature on my channel very often, but I'm really playing the nostalgia card here because when I was a teenager, David Lee Roth, for a period of about 6 months, was God to me. And this album, Skyscraper, has a great opening track. It starts with the song Knucklebones, but the second song on the record is the one that got me into Diamond Dave. I picked it up on a 45 back in 1987 when it first came out. It was a big hit in the UK, and it's his song Just Like Paradise, which is just a great blazing MTV late 80s pop rock song with an extraordinary wailing guitar solo from Steve Vai. I don't play it all that often nowadays, to be honest with you, but you know, when I do play it, I always enjoy it, so I thought I would have to have that. A slightly more contemporary one now, as in a song I've been into in more modern times. This is John Cale. I'm sorry about the glare, but I just couldn't face taking all these records out of the sleeve tonight. From his album Slow Dazzle from 1974, I think, or 5, opens with a couple of real barnstormers. The opening track, Mr. Wilson, which I really should have featured in the last video when I was doing my favourite opening tracks, is a fantastic song. But the second song is a little gem as well. It's called Taking It All Away. And it's just a very melancholy pop song, really. Never quite worked out what it's about, but it's got a very desolate lyric and just a wonderful tune. Great vocal performance from the great man, and a song which has always been very special to me. I used to listen to it on my iPod just over and over again. Back when my youngest son was born, I used to push him around the streets in the pushchair, and those two songs, Mr. Wilson and Taking It All Away, were just constant companions for me.
It's a Vegas lie, said the Queen of Spain.
I should just mention, actually, I've decided for this particular instalment to set myself a rule. I wasn't allowed to have any of the artists that featured in part 1. So we had no Steely Dan in the first instalment, even though there are some great opening tracks from Steely Dan records. But I'm going to go with a song which has long been a favourite of mine from the album Pretzel Logic. It's the song Night by Night, which has a very late night vibe, appropriately. It's got a great horn arrangement, fantastic vocal performance from Donald Fagen. It's just one of those tunes that sounds like part of the soundtrack from some old 1970s cop show or something like that. Great atmosphere, great arrangement, fantastic song.
The sea refuses no river.
And this is an album that I've got into quite recently, in the last maybe 5 years. It was thanks to Jeff Party here on the VC. This is Pete Townshend and All the Best Cowboys Had Chinese Eyes, which has a great opening track, actually. The second song on the album is called The Sea Refuses No River, and it is just an absolutely almighty epic of a song. I think it's meant to express something of Pete Townshend's spirituality. He is a very spiritual man, obviously. It's quite bombastic, it's quite loud, it's quite in your face, but it's a very addictive song. It's got a great tune. His performance is really epic in it, and it's a song I never get tired of. And this album as a whole, it's not all consistently great all the way through, but there's definitely something about this record which is quite special, I think, and that track is a definite highlight of it. So The Sea Refuses No River from All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. Playing the nostalgia card again now. This is not a song that would occur to many people, I don't think, but it's one that I've always loved. This is from the second album by the Buggles. The album was called, or is called, Adventures in Modern Recording, which I've always loved. I discovered this album back in the 1980s. I missed it completely when it first came out. Maybe it was in the 90s. I just found it in a record shop and I was absolutely staggered because I loved their first album, which was The Age of Plastic, of course. I had no idea of the existence of this one, and when I found it, it was a truly gobsmacking moment. So yeah, it's a great album. It's mostly Trevor Horn without Jeff Downes. Jeff Downes had left to form Asia by this point. The second track on the record had no involvement from Jeff, I don't think, but it's called Beatnik. It's a wonderful song. It's very, very evocative, and it has this great, I'm going to guess it's a Moog solo or some kind of classic analog keyboard in the middle of it. Plays this wonderful evocative solo. It's a very nostalgic song, and it just has Trevor Horn's production stamp all over it. It's a really wonderful arrangement and a wonderful song, and I wish more people knew about it, really, as I do for the whole album, because this is definitely worth checking out if you haven't heard it. This is Thomas Dolby from his classic second album, The Flat Earth, and it is the title track, The Flat Earth, which follows the song Dissident, which opens the record. That's quite an upbeat song, but then The Flat Earth becomes, well, it sets a more melancholy tone. It's very filmic. It sounds like something from a soundtrack. It's quite slow, it's quite moody, and it's just got this heartbreaking refrain in it. Thomas Dolby was and is a master of atmosphere, really, and that song has got atmosphere in spades. So couldn't leave that one out of the list. The Flat Earth by Thomas Dolby. And this one had to be in there, an absolute corker of a heavy rock track, which I have long loved ever since I was a teenager, by the great Australian combo AC/DC from their 1978 album Power Age, their best album, I think. But it's the second song, of course, and it is, well, on this version actually it's not the second song, because this is not the UK version. The UK version is the one I should have shown, because the track I wanted to highlight is Down Payment Blues, which is one of Bon Scott's most epic lyrics, and really it's just the tale of a guy who's very down on his luck, can't even feed his cat, social security. He's basically got nothing. He hasn't got two coins to rub together, and he's it's quite Kinksian, really, in its lyrical angle. But the guitars and just the general atmosphere of threatening malice and just heavy, I don't know, just very bluesy, and just. When I heard it, I can remember, I think I was about 13 or 14, and I'd never heard guitars that sounded like that or were being played like that, and the arrangement is absolutely spot on. The arrangement team, obviously, of Vanda and Young were just really, I mean, they really knew what they were doing, and that is a definite highlight of that record. Possibly the best track on the album, apart from maybe Riff Raff at the end of side one. Now this song is very, very special to me. Always reminds me of leaving home for the first time when I went to uni back in the autumn of 1989, and my favourite band, Squeeze, came to play at the Great Hall in my second week, which was an incredible experience. I'd already bought this record though shortly before going to uni. This is Frank from 1989, which was their last album on A&M before they got dumped by the label. It was a completely flop album, did absolutely nothing at all, but we Squeeze fans love it. And the second song on the record is called Peyton Place, which carries on the great Christopher tradition of using the names of old plays and old TV shows or old films as the title of songs. And Peyton Place is one of his great offbeat love songs, really. It features the most stunning piano solo possibly that Jools Holland ever played, maybe apart from the one he did with The. It is a truly mind-bending solo. It completely staggered the guys in the band when he did it because they weren't expecting it, but the song is not necessarily one that you'd expect to have a big piano solo in the middle of, and it's not one of the Jools Holland boogie-woogie annoying generic piano solos. It's a very melodic solo, very, very intelligent, wonderfully played, but the song itself is just quietly heartbreaking. It's got a great vocal performance from Tilbrook, and it's a very special song in the Squeeze canon. It's, you know, again, I really wish more people knew about it, so I thought I would highlight that quite high up the list. So that's Peyton Place by Squeeze from 1989. I've saved the last two for the two top places, so I mean, don't take this too seriously, but either of these could have come at number one. I pushed this one down to number two because I do think it's quite overplayed now. This is I'm Not in Love by 10cc from their 1975 album, the original soundtrack, which was the first pop rock record I ever heard. And I'm Not in Love was a big favourite of my mother. She really loved it back in '75 when it came out. My dad liked it as well, and it's a song which really goes back into my earliest musical memories. So I couldn't leave it off the list, and I couldn't really have it lingering low down the list. It had to be high up, but I decided not to put it top because I thought that would be too predictable. Because it is a song in the UK. It has become very overplayed. It's a Radio 2 staple, really. So I thought I would avoid having it at number one. So Queen 2 begins with an instrumental track called Procession, but then it goes into Brian May's absolutely almighty song Father to Son, which is sung by Freddie, and I mean, it's definitely one of the band's big epics. I mean, Bohemian Rhapsody always sucks up all the attention when it comes to big Queen epics, but there were so many in the 1970s. You had the Prophet song, you had Brighton Rock, and this is at heart, it's a very simple song really. It's a guy addressing his son and just talking to him father to son, which is the song title, and just trying to explain to him how everything which is his is going to pass on to the son. It's got this great moving refrain, word goes around from father to son to son. Joyful the sound, the word goes around from father to son. This long fade out, which is like the Hey Jude fade out. It just goes on and on, gradually vanishing into the distance. But the song itself is so powerfully played and just has this magnificent, majestic production by Roy Thomas Baker. And it's one that's always totally blown my socks off. When I first heard it when I was probably about 12 or 13 when I first heard it, and I just immediately loved it. Somewhat controversially, I've always preferred side one of this record to side two. I think side two is good, but I think it's a bit of a mess really. I think side one is nearly perfect, and the second track on the album is a definite high point and a great showcase for what Queen did best, I think, in the 1970s. So I'll have that at number one, Father to Son by Queen. So there we go, that is the end of my selection. I really hope you enjoyed it, and no doubt I'll be back soon for another video. So leave some comments, let me know what you think of that selection and if you have any favourite second tracks. And in the meantime, I'll bid you farewell. Take care. Bye bye.